Welcome again to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. I am your host, Lionel McDonald. So we brought back a special guest that was on season three. I think it was episode 35 back in May of 90 or May of 2023. So David, welcome, otherwise known as the Wax Curator.
What up? What up? Thank you for having me again. Appreciate it.
All right. So, Davis, maybe you can just share with the listeners. I know I'm really excited that you're back, and we got a special theme that we're going to share with everyone. But maybe you can share a little bit about yourself and your love
Yeah,
for music,
yeah.
because this will be a music focus
Oh yeah.
episode today.
As you can see, I love records. I've been listening to hip hop since I was a teenager, so like early 90s, probably late 80s. I'm 44 right now, so when this came out, we're talking about 1994, so I was 14 at the time, so a little freshman in high school, or I think it was maybe eighth grade or something. So during that whole adolescence period, that's when I fell in love with hip hop. And just been collecting records and CDs, tapes, everything, for the past 30 years. And it's been a journey. Just hip hop as a culture, and just as it's a huge entity. It dominates, pop culture, and it's just crazy seeing the progressions from the early times to even today, and how, we're celebrating, these records that came out 30 years ago. So that's what I'm gonna talk about. And yeah, again, I'm from San Diego, from the West Coast. Just love hip hop, and I appreciate being on this podcast. And let's talk about some music.
All right. So let's get it cracking. So David has given us the theme. The theme today is we're going to go rewind and talk about 1994. 1994 was one of the great and maybe greatest years of albums that it came out in one particular year. It's 30 years ago, if you can believe. So David's talking about being in grade 8 or grade 9. I'm a little bit older. I was in college and of age and in the clubs and buying my own
Jealous,
music, had my
jealous,
own
jealous.
had my own disposable income. So again, for both of us, this is a special year. And I think when you throw 88, 93, which we talked a lot about last year as being the 50th year of hip hop, going 30 years back. And then, we can do the same thing again for 1995, because
Woo!
2025 will be 30 years for that year. So we're going to talk about, we each created a list. We could probably made it 50 albums. We cut it to 20. But we're going to talk about 20 of our favorite records out of this year. We ranked them. Um, so, David, as the guest on the pod, I will
Yeah.
let you go first. Give us your number 20.
All right. Let's see. Right now, I'm gonna give it to you as a CD because I don't have it on vinyl.
Okay.
But 94, you can't talk about 94. I have personally a lot of East Coast albums. So
Yeah.
this one here, it's technically Ohio, but it had that gangster flow. So Bone Thugs.
Bone Thugs. All
I
right.
mean, you can't forget about Creeping on a Come Up. The Thuggish Ruggish Bone. This is just one of those things that was always on repeat, or was always just, banging everywhere. Everyone was bumping this album.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna put it 20. I'm not the biggest Bone fan, yeah. I I have my own opinions of them. I grew up listening to a lot of Freestyle Fellowship, so
Hmm.
there was all that controversy about someone biting whose style or whatever. But I ain't saying anything. But Bone, just for the longevity of this of them. They just over what they've done over the years. That I'm just putting this number 20, just because it's not a record, but I need to get it. So if anyone's finding me a copy out there, I would say that's number 20 on my
Okay.
list.
All right.
And then
Solid list. So I'm going to dive in. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see David is probably going to show all 20 records that he has. There may be a tape involved. He has tons of vinyl. So again, available on YouTube. It is on Apple and Spotify, along with wherever you get your podcasts. So for me at 20, and I really struggled. getting at 20, there were so many albums before this. You could have thrown Shaheem on there. You could have thrown Lords
Oh
of the
yeah.
Underground, their second album.
Yes.
You could
Yes.
have thrown the Fugees. You could have thrown Keith Murray's album. But I'm going to start, Black Sheep Nonfiction was there,
Mm,
but I'm going to start um, Diggable Planets Blowout Comb. And I love the album, so it had to be in my top 20. There is a guest appearance from both Jeru along with Guru. The production it doesn't sound like their first album. It sounds a little more gritty. I've seen them
solid.
perform both two albums, and the group has been together, separated. Butterfly went and did her own thing. They had someone replace her, which was kind of weird. Eventually, she joined the group. They've recently done some shows, and who knows whether if they're up and around in 25 as they really think of 30 years of their music. But I had Diggable Planets. All three MCs are phenomenal. Personally, I love Butterfly as an MC. She probably is my favorite out of the trio. But yeah, I got Blow Comb at 20. Give us your
Nice.
19.
I'm gonna go with let's see here. I think my 19 is gonna be the Gravediggers.
Mm,
Just because, they started that whole horrorcore.
yeah.
I mean, everyone could debate about that, but I mean, you had your Necros and your Cages and technically like your M&Ms and all them, but like it starts here with Gravediggers, and especially having, oh, can't even see it, having like Prince Paul and having the RZA on this. I mean, the style I mean, you can just, of course, 1-800 Suicide, but just from top to bottom, even Shabazz Disciple makes an appearance on there.
Yep.
Search, Chub Rock, I think's on here, but I mean, this is just, yeah, I would say this is one of my favorite side projects by the RZA, and just to work with Prince Paul is, that's why. And then yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the number 19. It would have been higher, but there's so many different options out here.
That's the problem with the list. There is so many options. So I'm going to do a tally. So this is the first tally. Where do we land at the same? So I also had Gravediggers 6 Feet Deep as
Yes,
my number 19. So it's funny,
nice.
we ended up exactly at the same
That's
spot.
awesome.
So, songs I love, Death Trap, 6 Feet Deep. Obviously, you said 1-800 Suicide, um, Blood Brothers. Again, there's so
Oh
many
yeah,
good out songs that are on the album, and I think
Dire the
how
Man
this
Man.
how this is a collaboration with so many different artists from different groups. This is
Stetsasonic.
essentially, yeah, that's the This is like a super group that comes
Yeah,
together for
yeah.
one particular project, and how Prince Paul and RZA, as two amazing producers in their own right, can kind of come together and create this whole horror rap sound is quite amazing. So that's who I had at number 19. Give us your 18.
All right. Again, this is just from being from the West Coast.
Yep.
And I was born in San Francisco, so I'm a Bay Area guy. So Spice One, for some
Okay.
reason, this was always on repeat for me. This is I think it was late 94, almost. I remember getting this in 95. I
Yep.
remember getting the tape. But yeah, I mean, this one is crazy because I remember when this came out, I was like, Method Man's on here, and like,
Yep.
and then of course all his all the Bay Area collabs are on here. E40, Tupac. So I mean, this is probably one of my favorite Spice One albums is America's Nightmare. Again, like the main one is what is it? Don't you run away. Strap on the side. That
Yep.
was one of my songs that I used to bump that. Spice
Gotcha.
One's my guilty pleasure. But yeah,
Guilty
that's
pleasure. Hey,
yeah.
that's a good. It definitely didn't make my list. But definitely that is a great album in its own right. And then again, just another, solid MC bringing something to the party.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I at number 18, and really off the quality of their standout cut, but I got Warren G Regulate
Mm,
at 18, and if you go no further than the song regularly, it is
Yeah,
arguably one of the biggest sound songs that we have. Like I think when you look at heavy rotation, I went back and looked at an old source from '94. It is there in the 12 albums
yeah,
as heavy rotation. So, we had this harmony between Warren G and Nate Dogg, and this is like Nate Dogg before he started guest appearing for
yeah,
everyone and anyone, and was just became the absolute hook master. Um, it is a pretty solid project if you take some time and actually get into it. But
yeah,
again, we're going to talk about there's so many quality projects that are on this album. It is really hard to say that it goes any higher than this spot at 18. So let me just actually quickly look. Um, and we think about the albums that are out, that comes quote unquote after this one. There's so many
yeah,
between
yeah.
what you get with Tupac and you're just coming off Snoop Dogg the year before.
Oh
You
yeah.
had Chronic the year before
Yep.
that. Then you get Dog Pound. Um, the West is absolutely soaring at this point, and this is an impactful album that people like. You may not play the whole album. If you play this song, you know that you were in '94 and probably where you were when you heard it the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm gonna do Warren G2 next.
Okay.
I had that mixed. I had him like right next to Keith Murray, but I was like, I think I like I don't know. Again, I'm like, I'm a little biased towards the East Coast, but yeah, I'm going Warren G.
Okay.
I mean, with DUC or like this DJ. I
Yes.
mean, there was so many different like tracks, and again, like together having Warren G and Nate Dogg, it's like Smith and Wesson, it's like Mobb Deep, it's like Ghost and Ray. It's
Yeah.
like they sound so good together. And then, even though he did, like you were saying, he did go back and he started doing the hooks for everyone else, but just that early 94, like that's some that's I wish it would have been a little bit higher, but again, it's these lists, it's
It,
these
it's
years,
it's
it's so
crazy.
hard. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So crazy. So I think that was my number. What was it?
17.
17, 17,
Yeah.
17.
So for my number 17, I have, and it borderline pained me to make it 17, but I have Tikal by Method Man.
Mm,
So this is an album that squeezed into the end of the year. Its partner album is in my top 10 by Redman. It came out on the same day. It was so
yep,
unique
yep.
because it was released by Def Jam. And although we never heard them come together, to think that we got 5 years later that we got the Blackout and Blackout 2, we got How High,
Yeah,
and how like literally they were like they it felt like they were Siamese twins. They were
right.
so compatible and such of the same vibe. It was amazing. But hey, this was the groundbreaking first solo project that we got from Wu Tang. So
Yeah.
year before we got like literally at the same time we got 36 chambers.
Oh yeah.
We played 36 chambers all of '94, and then we got where's this Method Man guy? He's the only guy that had his own solo song. So
Oh
you
yeah.
think of the album, and then I think it was kind of in September, October. You see Method Man, the first video, he's on a bus, and
Yes, bring the pain.
and then he's got the one eyelid covered with the
Yep.
that he's a white eye, and it was amazing. You got the second single was Release Your Delf, and then
Yes.
from Meth for a Chef, and but of the song that no one can forget is the collaboration he did with Mary J.
Yeah.
Um, All I Need, and there's the RZA version, and
I
you may
like that
not
one.
like Puff, but they flip the beat,
Yep.
and that is the beat that you probably hear. Any '90s jam, you're gonna hear that. That is some people's favorite hip hop love song that you've ever heard. So it's probably not as cohesive as Cuban Links and even Iron Man, but definitely
Like
Liquid
Liquid
Swords.
Swords. Yeah.
But it is such a special product. It's probably something that Method Man was never able to replicate. As much as he had some good songs, he was never able to replicate a project as good as this one particular. But
Oh yeah.
to Cal, ends up being my number 17. So we'll flip to you, David.
Okay,
Give us your
okay.
16.
16, I think it was going back to Keith Murray. Um,
Okay.
so it was actually a really good year for Death Squad because
Yeah.
I think Eric Sermon had an album this year. This is Keith
It
Murray's.
was the year No Pressure was the year
Oh,
before.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It was yeah, and then it was that in between. I was thinking of PMD. PMD had like an album this year too, or
Yeah.
94. So yeah, so so you had Eric Sermon last year or 93, and then you had Keith Murray, and you get Redman too on his in his sophomore joint. So, I always like The Most Beautiful Thing in the World, Dip Dip Die, even Get Lifted. Uh, th those are the tracks that just I just remember bumping all the time. But yeah, even the video too. I remember the video all the time playing on Yo MTV Raps and everything. But yeah, this one here, number 16.
Yeah. The Most Beautiful Thing that was in heavy rotation. Arguably, like it was probably a top 10 song in that particular
Oh yeah,
year. Um,
because it kind of
for
crossed over too. Yeah,
hardcore fans, and it even got some radio play. I mean, we have
yeah,
a
that
radio
beat.
show back in the day. There was the Mastermind show on 10 on Energy 108, and then on CKLN Power Move show. It was like a 1 to 4 Saturday afternoon. My friend Elena actually used to work in the studio and talk to all of these artists that came in, and when they were doing a show, then she would take them around town, get them something to eat before they had to perform. So, Elena, there's your name drop on the podcast. But yeah, that song was in such heavy rotation. It was totally unbelievable. So at number 16, I got a collab album, but there's a song that really not several songs that stuck out in particular, but one song that I, really, it was their essentially one and done. Um, is the collab album is Murder's the Case.
Yes,
And I would not say that I am the hugest West Coast fan, but this album is absolutely
solid.
crazy. And the person that I'm referring to is another song, probably a top 10 song you remember from that there was Lady of Rage, Afro Puffs.
Afro Puffs. Yep.
And the beat that was done for that song by Dre, and just to have, you think of where you were in the 90s, and so many women were being sexualized, and really kind of going to get people's attention by how they dressed. Later Rage was totally
No,
different. An
no.
all black, leather black jacket, and just spit some of the hardest rhymes that you heard from a male or female. She reminds me of like like Heather B, um
Isn't
but from
isn't
the West
is
Coast.
isn't she originally from the East Coast though?
She is,
Yeah,
but and that's
and
why I
then
think she sounds like that to a certain way.
yeah, because she has lyrics.
Um, yeah, different. Like she's not singing a hook. She's like she's spitting
She got
bars.
them
So
lyrics. Yeah.
I
No, she's
absolutely
always.
love that album. I still remember having my Discman and just playing that and like just running it, no skipping, beginning to end. But love Murder's the Case. That is my number 16. So give us your number 15.
All right, 15. Let me see here. I would say, um, try to think here. Um, I moved this one up because he recently passed, and I'm a big Hobo Junction guy.
Okay.
Saphir, it's
Yeah.
the Boxcar Sessions.
Golden
And
State Warriors.
yep, yep, with Exhibit and Razkaz.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, man, uh, I remember watching Menace to Society, and he was in Menace to Society. He played Harold. He played the cousin he had that beamer and he got shot in Menace to Society.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, Light Sleeper. There was the jam. Just even what was it? Right, Just Writing. I know they had a remix version of it, but they had the single for Just Writing. Can You Feel Me was another good track. Just this one here, just with that West Coast sound coming out of Oakland was something that was emerging around that time because around that same year, besides, Hobo Junction, you had Hyro coming through. So like this is an honorable mention just
Yeah.
because I'm talking about Saphir. So you got to have Casual, Fear
Yeah.
itself. So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they
Remember
battled
that
they
one?
they battled and everything. So
Yeah.
I just threw that little Casual in there, but yeah, I had Saphir up there just because just recently I played a lot of his music because he just passed away. So
Yeah.
he ended up I just wanted to throw him in there and just to mix it up with some West Coast, especially that Oakland hip hop, that
Yeah.
Hyro, that Hobo Junction, that
Yeah.
Living Legends, that they deserve that recognition, especially that early stuff that started it all.
Yeah.
So that was
Totally agree with
was that 15?
that.
I'm
That's
like
15. So
losing track.
it's that's why I got numbers beside all of mine to keep us on track. So at 15, not their first album, definitely not their best album, which is Riding Dirty, but I got UGK super tight.
Ooh, okay, okay.
So again, to give us another area of North America, UGK, um, and again, between the two of them, personally, I love how Bun B sounds.
Yeah,
Um,
I like Bun B. Yeah,
like Bun B for me is the one that resonates the most. But I think because excuse me, because he passed, so many people talk about
Pimp
Pimp
C.
C
Yeah,
and his impact. And again, these guys are from Texas, so
yeah.
you kind of think of the Texas lineage. You got
Scarface,
Scarface,
Ghetto Boys.
most notably. You had DOC a couple years ago, and that may be my favorite album from anyone that came from Texas. But little known fact, there is a producer that came from Texas, and his name is DJ Premier. Most people don't know that Guru is from Boston, and
Yeah,
DJ
DJ
Premier
Premier is
is
from
is is
Texas.
from Texas.
Yep.
But yeah, I love how this album sounds. Was my gateway to UGK, so this one has a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
I think when I look at the album and some of the songs that are on there, a couple that stand out, and it's not the ones that people talk about a lot, but front to back, side to side, um, uh, Pocket Full of Stones Part Two, The Feds in Town, 316. These are all songs that I can get down. Love the Underground. The Return is a great segue from the first album. So UJK at 15. Give us your
Nice.
number 14.
Well, I'm going a little south from there, so I'm going Outcast,
Oh,
Southern
nice,
Playalistic
nice.
Cadillac Music. So again, just another one of those. It's again like I just want to point out like how much I miss uh regional rap where
Yeah,
everything you hear this record, you're like, okay, yeah, they're from Atlanta, or UGK's from Texas, or Spice One's from the East Bay. So you kind of know where's LA, where's Memphis, where's
yeah,
Miami, where's bass. So it's like this one here is of course like the Players Ball. That's the one that everyone remembers, and it's crazy like how they released that track as a Christmas song.
yeah. Unbelievable. That's a Christmas song.
That's a Christmas. So definitely gonna play that song this Christmas
Yeah,
at if we have any get-togethers or anything. But yeah, I mean, again, just for this to start it all, and then even I think Goody Mob's on here too.
yeah. That was the intro to Goody Bog because
Yep,
again, this was the
Call of the
theory in the
Wild. Yep,
'90s. You bring
your
someone from your
crew.
crew
Yep.
on a crew track, and then that's how do you then transcend, and they end up on
Oh
their
yeah.
own solo project. So you got to hear, think even like go back. We were talking about Oakland. Dell
Yep.
brought on Souls of Mischief
Casual and
and
casual.
Casual, and
Yep.
this is how we heard these guys.
Yep. And it's crazy you just mentioned that because like right before, like I always think of like leading up to each year, but that like last couple months of '93. like killed it because that was what November, December when you had Ice Cube, you had Tribe Called Quest, you had Wu-Tang,
Wu-Tang.
you had
November 9th, the best release day
November.
ever,
Yep.
because both of those came out the same day.
Those that was like which what did you spend your did you buy them both or did you which one did you buy?
No, I've told the story before and I'll tell it again because I never get tired of it. I'm in at the University of Windsor. I'm in Devonshire Mall and I'm holding both albums. And I knew about Wu-Tang. I heard one song, I heard the Method Man,
Yeah.
but I'm a diehard Tribe fan. I
Yeah.
Midnight Marauders was the album in my hand. The Low End Theory is my favorite album to that juncture at the time.
Yeah.
So I took the sure thing and I
Yeah.
don't regret it at all. But I go home to on winter break and my friend dubbed me the Wu-Tang album. So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, listen to this. I know you heard about this. It's like, yeah, I almost bought it last month and I didn't have enough money. I'm a university student. I was too busy spending money on NBA Jam as an arcade game.
Yes. Yes.
So he dubbed it for me. I had a holiday trip with the family. It's the last family vacation we really ever took. We went to Jamaica because that's where both my parents are from. And in my grandmother's sitting room in the middle of Jamaica in the bush, this is when the first time I hear 36 Chambers. We stayed there
Well,
overnight. The first day, not feeling this. There's a lot of guys that can't even figure out the voices.
yeah.
Then the second time I flipped it, but on the wrong side, and it was
Yeah.
right in the middle of Protect Your Neck, and it's Jizz's verse, and I was like, mind blown.
Oh yeah.
Who is this guy? What the hell was that? That is the best closing verse I've ever heard. So
Yeah,
then
that's crazy.
I start listening to it, and I start piecing the whole thing together, and rest is history. I'm a Wu-Tang fan for 30 years.
And to think about it, like 2 years prior to that, when Jizza had the Genius,
Yeah.
it was a girl, come do me,
Yeah. Jeez.
girl.
Yeah. That album
Words for
was
the Genius.
words from the Genius. We end up my brothers followed suit and we were like CD collectors. We just tried to
Oh yeah.
find CDs and tapes. We find this thing in Hudson, New York, visiting my grandmother when she was in town because she would be a snowbird and go to Jamaica or Florida for the winter. We
Yeah.
end up like on a hunt and find this. My brother found it, so he bought it. I was mad because I didn't have it as part of my
That's
collection. I had the big
that's me and my
collection,
brother too. Me and my
and
brother the same thing.
the album wasn't really good, but we knew what Wu Tang was at that point, and
Yeah.
I wanted that as part of the. Eventually, I found it in my CD collection that's over there. Did find that
Nice.
one, but hey, great story.
Nice. That's pretty awesome.
So I think we're at 14. This one shuffled around. It probably was lower at one point than I as you we started talking. It's like it can't be in at 18 or 19. So I
Yeah.
got organized confusion, stress,
Ooh,
the extension era, an absolute classic between Prince Paul and Pharaoh Monch. And that
man.
this is the time that I truly absolutely love Pharaoh Monch. Like I was hooked.
Me too.
Again, the funny thing is, I
Me
never
too.
bought the album originally. The first time I ever heard it, because my brother and we decided to divide and conquer. He bought the album, I bought
Yeah.
another one. So he ends up playing it, and it's like, who is this guy? I end up finding about that they had an album before that,
Oh
and
yeah. The
went and found
self-titled one.
went and found that album, and then, but I had already heard OC, and it's just like, wait a minute, they're connected. Go
Yep.
back, and when I find the first album,
Yep.
I hear Fudge Pudge, which is one of my
Yep.
favorite songs of all time. So kind of very, this is how hip hop worked. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
had to hear an album, you probably didn't even hear the first thing, then you're going back to find out who they were. And I'm sure it happens today, but it just felt totally different because you can just go to Apple Music or Spotify or YouTube and find the album. No. In 1994, you had to go to the record store and they
Yeah.
probably didn't have it. And then you
Yeah.
had to go to another one and try to find it. So it was a hunt. And that's what the
I
utopian, I
miss.
think, for the fans that are listening of this podcast, and particularly on the music side, this is the energy of 92, 93, 94, 95, and beyond. You had to physically find the copy. So
Yep.
I'm looking at David's screen. He's got all this vinyl. I look to my right. I had tapes. I have some CDs in front of me and along the sidewall underneath my TV. But that is the energy. It was a collecting piece.
Yeah.
And again, as we talk about these albums, probably will continue. There's a story behind how you got that album. But again, if we talk about this album and like how this sounded, it sounds like nothing else. And that's what's so unique about 93 and 94 and 95. The albums all sounded different. They all were regional. So from 13 to Drop Bombs to Let's Organize, which had Q-Tip on the
Mm,
production and he sings the
yep.
hook. And then we got OC, Keep It Coming is a banger. Straight Bullet was, I almost
Oh,
call it the preface to, you know, Nas's song
it
on It
is.
Was Written that
Everyone. Yep.
acting as he was a gun, and it's one of the
Yep.
best storytelling songs. Then you had Stress, you know, you had Bring It On, you had Bite. Like it is an amazing project. I feel bad now. I think maybe if I redo this, it wouldn't be 14, it would be higher. But there were some other great ones that we have to get to. But and it's funny and sad at the same time that this project was so good, but as many happens in hip hop, groups can't stay together and
Yeah.
they split. Tribe split. Essentially, Pete Rock and CL Smooth are not really going to work together, although they've been on tracks. You've heard the issues earlier this year. The Pete or
I
CL
missed
Smooth,
I missed
CL
it.
Smooth.
Drinks champs, right?
Yeah, he was
I
on,
missed
and
it. I need to
so
watch that.
he went on, and I won't blow the whole thing for you, but he went on and says he would love to work with with um with Pete Rock again. This is CL Smooth, who was
Yeah.
the MC. Pete Rock was the producer and
Yep.
sometimes MC. He would love to go on tour again because
That'd be
that's
dope.
money. That's money.
And
I don't know
especially
if they need to create another project, but they would love to tour again because that's how they make money. But Pete Rock is so busy doing radio and so busy doing production for other.
oh yeah.
He doesn't need CL Smooth. He's got his own thing that's
Oh yeah.
happening. So this is what happens in hip hop. Many groups, it's amazing when they stay together like Public Enemy, and then it's sad when a group like this, Organized Confusion, what we're talking about right now, splits. They made two great albums, and
Ye-
they did make Equinox was is the third album.
Third, yep.
Now I don't think it's the same tier as the first two. Particularly, I
No.
think the apex here is Stress, but doesn't work out. Anyways, that's my 14. Let's roll in with lucky 13.
I would think my 13, I'm just gonna move on to you already mentioned it, it was Murder with the Case. Murder
Yeah,
was the case. I mean the just off the jump, I mean the Murder was the case remix, that the drums on that versus the original one,
yeah,
it hits hard. I mean Natural Born Killer with that Dre and Ice Cube connection, even the Dog Pound. What would you do? I mean they had I remember all the videos and Sam Snead. You better
yeah,
recognize. Dollars and Cents was that one on there? Yeah, DJ
yeah,
Quick. They had so, and then again, like you meant, Afro Puffs. I mean, this is one of those albums that, yeah, it's definitely on the top 20. So this is number 13,
yeah. An
13, 13.
absolute, and again, I talked about it earlier. And yeah, the song that everyone remembers that was our introduction to Lady of Rage. But there's so many West Coast people that were all that, and I think
Yeah,
what's so great about it, they all collaborated to make this album, and that's what's so
yeah.
unique because we don't have things like this in
No,
2024.
we're
So
missing that.
yeah, so yeah, there's too many Drake and Kendrick beefs to get
Right?
people to collaborate, right? So at number 13, and they make it as 13 versus Organized Confusion. You can debate whether the album is better, but this is the introduction. This is the debut album of one of my favorite groups and one of the best live performers is MOP, Mashup
Ah,
Posse. So to the
nice.
death. So we got Rugged Never Smooth, Who is
Yes.
MOP, Top of the Line. How
How
about
about
some
some more
hardcore?
hardcore?
Is
Yep.
is the track that everyone
Yep.
remembers from this album. So I'm a huge MOP fan from Warriors, to the albums that they did, and they got so many collaborations with Jay
Oh yeah.
Z and so many others. So I think
Primo.
Fire Squad Primo loves working with
Oh,
these
yeah.
guys. First Family that came out in 1998, Handle Your Business that came out around the same time. Eventually they did some Marksman stuff. Even Ghetto Warfare in 2006 was an amazing album, but and even though they finished off with kind of Sparta and Foundation, but this is one of the best. This was like, in my opinion, this was like you had Mobb Deep, and this was like
Yeah.
the other Mobb Deep that
Yes.
did things differently, but was the grittiest of the gritty. Like
Oh
Mobb Deep
yeah.
was
They're
Queens,
Queens and they're
and
Brooklyn,
these guys were Brooklyn. Like it was just
Brownsville. You
they
know,
were just in a different boroughs, sounding a little bit different, but
it's their
giving
own
us
point of view on that side of
yeah
it.
on
Yeah.
what it looked like. But yeah, to the death is my number 13, a favorite project of mine for the year. But we're only at 13. We're still cooking. Davis, give us your number 12.
And it happened to
Oh,
be the next,
so close.
happened to be MOP as well. So just same sentiments. I mean, how about the hardcore was like one of those tracks. That beat alone. I know there was a sample on that one that the Coup used
Yeah,
for Dig It, I think it was. Um, I think Pam the Funkstress did that remix on it. But yeah, that's just one of those ones where and that was their debut, so it was
yeah.
yeah, it just amazed me when it came out. So that MOP um is on there number 12 for me.
Okay. So my number 12, still sticking with the East Coast here. We've dabbled in a couple other spots, but it's amazing that and one unfortunately that this group, they did 3 albums. They won't do anymore because unfortunately Tame One has passed away. But
Mm.
we have no one else other than the Artifacts from New Jersey. So these were kind of the little bros for Redman, who's out of Newark, New Jersey. So
Yep.
their album Between a Rock and a Hard Place
Yep.
is one of the best produced albums of this particular year. And I kind of look at some of the songs that we heard from Dynamite Soul, and then I
Oh,
would give these guys incredible credit. And I don't know if I would say they started it, but they were definitely part of the trend of what we had in the 90s, because one of the unique things about the 90s was the remix. What did you put
mm.
on the B-side? So there was the B-side
Oh,
song, but so many times we went back and we remixed the song. So Dynamite Soul, they totally did a new version of the song that was actually better than the
yeah,
original, that one that ended up on the album.
that was on the 12-inch, right?
Yes.
I have that one.
And
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think I got it up here somewhere on tape. So yeah, an absolutely gem of an album. There's so many songs that are on this. Come On with the Get Down,
Oh
Heavy and
yeah.
Ammunition. If I look back, Way Back is a cool song, not for everyone. Again, I mentioned Dynamite Soul, but you can't. The sound
Dun dun
and the
dun dun.
saxophone of Wrong Side of the
Yep.
Tracks. They had the video.
Boom 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 boom.
These are graffiti artists, so they talk. Their whole
Yes.
premise is bombing,
Yeah.
and again, what they were able to accomplish and what they were able to put out there was absolutely amazing. And again, it has such a unique sound. This particular song, the particular album, when you look at it on Apple, it's the number one song. That and Come On with the Get Down, and then actually
Yeah.
Way Back is actually number 4. So Elda Sensei actually has been a guest on this podcast.
I remember that. You were telling me that. Yeah,
So
and I saw.
that was at one of the special moments in terms of us getting a guest that is in the field of emceeing, that had something from the era, and I still continue to work on it. There's a lot of unread DMs that I've sent to people and haven't got back to me. Still wish one guy that I was dying to have on, and just he never answered, was none other than Koji Rap. So
Ooh.
he's
Ooh.
recently I would say, come out of his shell, or he just was busy with other things. And
Yeah.
if you ever listen to Take Your Personal Radio, he was on their podcast. He's an amazing guest, like totally opened up. I got to end up seeing him in a show earlier this year with MOP,
Oh wow.
which I just mentioned on. It was phenomenal. He's an amazing guy. One of these days, I would love to have him on the pod. But yeah, that is my number 12. Maybe you can flip back there, David, and give us your number 11.
Okay, I am going to Chicago.
Mm,
Resurrection. I mean, even the self title. I mean, the song Resurrection's great. I love that. It's one of my favorites. But you can't have it without I Used to Love Her. And I
no.
mean, just thinking like that just the video, the beat, the sample, it was just one of those. To me, it's like those iconic songs, like almost like a 93 to Infinity, like a Cream, where it's just that
Yes.
everything seemed to be like perfect with that song, like the rhymes, the beat, the hook, the everything. So I'm going Common's Resurrection on
Okay.
number 11, right? We're on 11. Yeah, yeah. I'm almost
Yeah.
forgetting.
So if I look at my list here, Artifacts is 12. So we're at 11. And I shuffled this between I would say 8 and like 14. These guys constantly were flipping through. So excuse me, there were some changes that I made. This one ultimately I identified an album that had to go higher, so things started
Yeah,
shuffling down. But
that's what I
it
had to do
should
too.
be in the top 10. It was in the top 10 well 3 hours ago. It's not in the top 10, but debut album of him as a solo artist, Scarface the Diary, is an absolute surefire classic. So no
It's a great one.
tears, Mind's Playing Tricks on Me 94. Um, the Diary is a title track. I seen a man die. Like it is an
Yeah,
amazing project. Like people love after they heard this album, wanted to work with Scarface. I remember I think there's an interview or there's it's in text before because it was not done in an interview, but Guru was so moved by this album is why he ended up on some of the Gangstar projects as we go down. Nas is a huge fan of this album and really connected, but he was part of Ghetto Boys, and Ghetto Boys was again an amazing group out of Texas.
yep,
He did his own solo project, and I think this took Scarface to a
yeah.
whole new level.
Was this like his second one? Because he
No,
had
I
like
think
the
this is this
third,
is this is
third.
his first because there was this,
The
then
world
we
is.
got then we
I
got
thought,
the
thought there was like the world is something. Like there's like a world or
oh
something.
yeah, so
It's like an
this is
EP or
not the
something.
first one. Actually, I'll take that back because this
It's
is
the
not
second
the
one.
first one. This is the first.
Full
This is the
album.
first that really stuck. So we had Mr. Scarface is back in 91. The World Is
Oh,
Yours, which you're talking
okay.
about in
Number two
93.
or no,
This is the
93.
one that was
Third one.
kaboom. This
Hmm.
was the diary. And then he did Untouchable. Um,
Yeah, it's a different sound, so that's why I think
my
it
homies, and then
resonated.
my homies two, then Last of the Dying, and then we got the fix. So this may be, I wouldn't say the apex between this and the fix are his two
Yeah,
must essential albums, but this had to be on the list. There's no two ways about it. But
I
it's
need to
only
get that
11
album.
because we have so much heat still to come.
Yeah,
So
I think my brother had this album or someone. So because I have
yeah,
only have it like on MP3, so I just need to I actually need to buy that one. I need to find
yeah,
it. Yeah, that's one that's missing. So I think that's why it's not on here. That's why
yeah.
I totally forgot that. There was a couple of ones where I'm like, shoot, like I thought I had it, and I was like looking through
So,
everywhere. I was
oh yeah,
saying, do I have it on tape? I have it on CD. I was like,
yeah. In
so
my
okay,
CD collection, this one is missing as I started to go through. So
isn't it
um,
crazy? And then you're looking at you open it up and it's missing too. Like, what?
oh, that is the worst thing when you
Who
open the case
who
and the
borrowed it?
CD is missing.
Yeah,
But you
who
know
borrowed
what?
that?
This is in the 90s. We had these CD sleeves that you're trying to keep all the albums
Yep,
together that you when you would take them to the car.
the visor.
And
Remember that one?
yes, I didn't do the visor. I had just the case, and
Yeah,
you're driving and flipping, and
which in
they
driving
should
with
they
your
should
knees.
they should not do that. You had it between your knees trying to find the album. But those were the days. Those were the
Oh,
days.
I
So
miss those days.
we are in top 10 territory.
Oh,
This is here
oh,
we go. Give us your number 10.
um, this one I am going to Jersey and I'm going to Redman. There is a dark
Yes.
side.
Yes.
This is like the original CD I got too, so it's all like scratched up. So
Yeah.
I definitely this is one of the ones that I've been trying to find on vinyl, and on every time I try to look for it, it's like either super expensive. I think they may have had a re-release or they may have not. I don't know why. Maybe it's sample clearances or something.
Yeah.
But again, this is one, you got your Tonight's the Night, you got your You Can't Wait. But the ones I kind of like the ones that are kind of like not too popular, like Cosmic Slop or like
That's my
Rockefeller.
joint. That's
Yeah,
my
you know what I
one.
mean? The
Because we had
like
Keith Murray and Eric Sermon on
yeah,
those.
you got the Def Squad going right there, and then like of course like the Superman Lover tracks he always does. So this is one here. This I bumped this so much that the CD skips.
Oh, isn't that a good
It's a good
feeling to
thing. It's a
have
good feeling.
when that's the piece. So
And just the album cover too was so dope.
yeah,
Like just
he's
man.
buried. For
Yeah.
those who are watching on YouTube, go Google it or go
Yeah,
look at it on
it's
YouTube. He's buried. He's screaming. His eyes are closed. It's a red sky. This is the
yeah.
same album that came out as Decal on the
Oh
same
yeah.
day in 1993. So this is again like this is my
And
memory of the things that I remember at this particular time.
yep.
Now I was in a better financial position 1 year later, so I was
Yeah.
working. I bought both on the same day.
See, like for me, I was 14, so I had like my allowance. I was
Yeah.
like $20. I'm like, oh man, I don't think I could get both of them. I got to choose one.
So which one did you choose?
I don't remember. I know I got Redman after the facts. I most likely
Okay.
I got Method
You
Man,
got
but
Method Man.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
have. I'm a bigger Redman fan than Method Man because again, like what the album is my favorite Redman album. So
Mm,
me just being swayed between that and Wu Tang, I knew Redman was something special.
yeah.
That album sounds totally different than the What the album. Like the other What the album like was like a bunch of singles put
Mm,
together.
yeah.
This was the first cohesive project,
Yeah.
and it
It was
is
good.
amazing. A lot of songs.
Underrated.
Yeah,
Underrated. Yeah.
yeah. When we talk about the best Redman album,
Doesn't
it
get that
doesn't
much.
get mentioned
It's my
like
favorite
it
Redman
should.
album. Yeah.
So it's their first full album that I got at number 10. And funny thing is, and I didn't want to blow it. I wanted to save it for this particular moment. But David and I didn't talk about, he has a ton of vinyl. He's now shown now that's the 11th album because he's at 10. He's shown the vinyl for each one of them. I went to the CD collection just for the top 10. So here we go. I got the Beat Nuts, and this one's called Street Life.
Yes.
An amazing production of them. So we got You Can't, You Don't
Props over
Stop,
here.
Props Over Here, Super Bad, Rick's Joint, Fried Chicken, um, Get Funky is an amazing song. Um, Psycho Less is my favorite out of the entire trio.
Yeah.
But these guys were on something else when they put together and produced this album. Much love to the Beat Nuts, and they've done lots of things. I've seen them in concert, and they sound when what I love about them, they sound exactly how they sound on the record.
That's
So
cool. Yeah.
love and it was funny. Like I heard this on another podcast again. Shout out to many of the hip hop podcasts that are out there. But they don't like this is technically an untitled album. Like no one knows what the album's called. Like it's just Beatnuts self-titled, but the street name essentially there's this little stamp on it. It says street level.
Yep.
So in the streets, they would call this album is trying to diversify between what Beatnuts albums are. They call it street level, even though it's not called street level. Like you ask Beatnuts, and I look it up on Apple, it's not called street level. But because you have the physical copies, that's what it was called.
Yep. Yep.
All right, let's go to number 9.
Well, we talked about them earlier, and we talked about both of them earlier. Main ingredient. The main ingredient. I mean, I remember I think it was my brother had the I Gotta Love main ingredient tape, the single.
Yep.
Oh man, those tracks I love. I mean, Escape, I mean, I Get Physical, Worldwide. I mean, the whole album's it's great. I mean, I Searching, Take You There. I mean, this would have been higher, but there's so many dope albums
Yeah.
for 94. But again, this one is a little bit different from Mecca and the Soul Brother. But this sound, I really, it's underrated too. A lot of people don't really talk about main ingredient as
No.
like one of their favorites. But for me, I really dig this album. It's friggin' from front to back. It's a, I
Yeah.
still bump this.
It's one of those that you just put in and you let it run. And I think
Yeah.
you think of groups that they don't have a huge catalog because they had an EP all
The
sold
first
out.
one all
That's when
sold
they
out.
had the original version of Creator. Then we got
Yep.
Mecca and the Soul Brother, and then we got And then obviously we just got the Made in Ingredient in 94. Its first album, the first full album was in 92, I
Two,
believe.
92. Yeah.
And then the EP was in 91. But
91.
like if that for a very small discography, they did not
Yeah.
miss at
No,
all. Like
no.
you could play their discography, everything they had, and it's all fire. So yeah, definitely a favorite of mine. I think I've got it here. It's probably a little higher on my list than yours, but so running into for me at number nine, and I'm gonna show a different piece. So no CD, no vinyl. I have to show you Redman.
Yes.
The Redman. There is a dark side, and what's unique
Yes.
about this
Is it
one,
red?
it's the red tape. So we
Yes.
had the purple tape.
The red
This is
tape.
the red tape, and this would inspired the purple tape
Yep.
because this was one of the first tapes. Because you would get a tape, it was clear. More 99% of the time, it was black. In a rare case, I think of like Bobby Brown. I think I had, and um, thinking of one more, Belle Biv DeVoe,
Yeah.
Poison. It was white
They
because
had
that's what in
sometimes
the 80s.
they
So
had
some
they
of
had the
those tapes
white.
were white.
Yeah, the white tapes.
So this is a unique one because it's red. So when you look at, and again, what's so amazing about CDs and tapes, you have an
Liner notes.
album, you see who was on the song, who produced it, and then who the artist is cool with because you had to read the shout out. So I remember
Yes.
every single time opening a tape, opening a CD, and I'm sitting there,
Who's he
who
down
is
with?
he cool with? You
Yeah.
know, going from person to person, shouting out his hood, gives lots of respect to obviously he's from Newark, New Jersey, but then he had to shout out Brooklyn and Queens and everyone else. Definitely gives a shout out to the Death Squad. So, and Redman's a funny guy, but when you look at, this is a cohesive story. So you got Dr. Travis that starts the album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you got The Journey, you got Rockefeller, which is an amazing joint. You got Basically,
Oh yeah.
and then the one song that it really sticks out for me is We Run New York, which has Hurricane G. I only found out last year as she passed away.
Yeah.
She used to be involved with Eric Sermon.
Yep.
They were a couple, and I was like, I didn't know. I almost met Eric Sermon at this hip hop 50th show last
Wow.
year, and a neighbor on my street actually works with him in the digital world, in the metaverse essentially, and they do a lot of things, Death Squad, EPMD, all in the metaverse, and it's pretty cool some of the things he's able to ship. But I absolutely love this album.
Great album.
It's
Yeah.
probably my second favorite because I said um what the
What the
album
album? Yeah.
is my number one, but
Yeah.
surefire, sure shot album being Redman. Dark Side, as I call it for short, had to be in the top 10 for me because it got heavy run. When you talk about an
Yeah.
album that you played it and it skips, or it plays it and it's scratched, there's parts of this red tape, and I can't get rid of it because it's a red tape. It's so unique,
Yeah.
but like it shoots forward because it's been worn in certain areas.
Yeah.
Because
Especially when you're
in the tape
rewinding,
with the tape,
pausing.
you got
Yeah.
to rewind,
Yeah.
pause, and you're trying to make a pause tape out of it, and so many
Yeah.
different things. But number nine, Redman. Give us your number eight.
Number 8 is Takal.
Okay.
So I would you know, I would say again, it's like, bring the pain, all I need, all the actual the singles were pretty good, but it's funny. I like Mr. Sandman, like Stimulation, like those like beats from RZA were just so dark. It just had a different tone to it.
Yeah.
So PLO Style's another one of those.
That's
Get my thing
one.
into
That's the
action.
one.
Like those beats, man. Like if it was a tape, the second side was pretty gritty. I mean, even in the first, even like you're hearing Raekwon's Guillotine before it was Guillotine. Like it was just a little
Yeah.
do do,
The
so
snippet.
the little snippet. And it was like, oh man, that's and like you wanted that so bad as a beat, and then they finally give it to you a year later.
Mhm.
What the Blood Clot? I mean, Meth vs. Chef, Sub Crazy. I mean, I think it's pretty dark as far as the beats and everything. So it doesn't that's why I kind of like this album. At first it was again, I'm listening to the radio friendly songs and everything, but then over the years, that's when I was like, oh my God, I really like these other songs that didn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Like again, like Sandman or Mr. Sandman, like Stimulation, Get My Thing in Action, PLL style, like those like four in a row. I'm like, man, I could just listen to those. So that's like my number eight. Again, Method Man, big Wu-Tang fan. And he was like my favorite MC out of all of them for the
Yeah.
longest time until it was the Jizza. Like he's my favorite all the time of all time, just because we share the same birthday,
Oh,
and he's
there you go.
and
Good reason.
he's the most like lyrical as far as I mean, we all know that. I mean, he's the genius. He's just so yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my number eight was Method Man's Takal.
Okay. Okay. So number eight, you've already mentioned it. He's still at this point common sense or
Yeah.
resurrection. So yes, we already kind of talked about the song on the album, an all-time classic in heavy rotation according to the source. I used to love her, but Watermelon, Communism,
Ooh, communism. Yeah.
um, some shit I wrote. I thoroughly enjoy Pop's rap. Just hearing his dad just talk on the album. Um, I think it's an amazing project. From uh, can I borrow a dollar, which is debut album.
Yep.
This it's so different,
It is
so
different. Yeah.
much more polished. My wife personally loves Can I borrow a dollar. Like if she goes to Common, she doesn't go to B, she doesn't go to this, she goes to that album. There's just
Yeah.
it just sounds different. It's just
And
like
he's younger
someone
too.
trying to
His
get
voice is even
way
he
younger. And
sounds
I think it's like
way different. Yeah.
the Common we know today sounded like
That
we heard him
common.
for the first
Yeah.
time on
Yep.
Resurrection. So my number eight, a classic. Give us your number seven.
Number seven. Let's see here. I'm gonna go with Word Life.
Okay. Okay.
So OC's debut, of course. I my favorite song is Word Life. I've always liked the piano on that, the sample. But of course, there's always, Born to Live, Time's Up, um, uh, Ma Dukes. That's probably my second favorite is Ma Dukes. But
Yeah.
even the Time's Up and the Born to Live remixes are pretty sick. But again, OC, one of the DITC members. So that's one of the albums that I could just play all the time. Um, and it also just sounds like the time of '94. Like when I listen
It
to it,
so does.
it's just this is like if you wanted to hear especially the East Coast sound, just play this album. Play the rest of my top seven.
Yeah.
But yeah, OC. This would have been higher again. I'm saying that all day, but
Yeah.
there's too many to choose from.
Yeah. Totally. Totally agree. So yeah, I think our lists are going to be pretty close. Like I'm about to give us number seven, and that's going to really give us six albums left. It's amazing that we've talked about some of the same, some different. We've kind of been in the same area,
Yeah,
but we've only had one alignment, and that was way down
at the big
at number
19.
19. I think it was with Gravedigger. So
Yeah.
my number seven, before you get to your number six, is Main Ingredient. Again,
Yes.
the flawless catalog, although it's unfortunately very small. We talked about that, between Pete Rock and CL Smooth, that created their second full album, Main Ingredient. And again, it's got classics from In the House, Get on the Mic, In the Flesh, Searching, which is an amazing
Yeah.
song that you could listen to with your girl. I remember, like, I had probably have it over there on my tape wall. Like hip hop for the ladies, or hip women are hip hop songs on women, I think is what I called it. And you get from Apache to
Yeah.
this to Me and My Bitch by Big, like it's all there. Main Ingredient, I love Worldwide. um You Tell Me is another great love. Like they just did some amazing
Just
music.
amazing. Yeah.
So what's unique about this particular cop, because I have two, is that at one point I was a manager at Foot Locker, still work with the organization, but I managed Toronto Eaton Center. So in the 90s and the 2000s, we also had people always come through. They needed a pair of shoes before they do a show. So it was the night
That's
that
dope.
is probably like 2005 or six. And DJ Premier against P Rock is one of the most memorable hip hop moments that I ever had. And Pete Rock came into the store, and at many times I would be playing the album of the artist that I knew I was going to see the show that night because I
Nice.
could find a clean version. This is a clean version of the album. So this particular, for those who are watching on YouTube, he signed this one for me. Um,
Dude.
so pretty amazing that I met one of my favorite top five producers of all time in the store. Wish we had a relationship to this day. It's still funny that if you mention him on Instagram, a lot of times he will look at it, he will comment. I remember I did a couple years ago, shout out to all the producers that I tagged my 20 favorite producers that were still
Yeah,
alive, and he reposted my post
that's awesome.
because I had posted it so early in the morning. So Pete Rock, CL Smooth, an amazing duo. Wish we had more music, but that is even DJ
Fingers
Mastermind,
crossed.
which
Fingers crossed.
yeah,
Maybe in the
maybe
future.
things will work out. But
Who knows?
DJ Mastermind, that's his, I think his second favorite album out of sight Illmatic, maybe his first. Main ingredient is his album. So now we're getting to the nitty gritty here. We got six to go. Who do you got?
You already mentioned this one, but between a rock and a hard place
Nice. I
with
love how you have it
artifacts.
this high.
So yeah, I mean, this is just one of those ones again, like wrong side of the tracks. I got the Dynamite Soul, the single that has the B side, the remix was super dope. Come on with the Get Down. I remember when I did the podcast last year. I don't know if I already saw Elda Sensei at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
he was doing a show in San Diego, so I got to meet him. He was pretty cool, and
Yep.
I remember taking a picture with him and picking up an Artifact shirt, and then I even picked up a couple of his new records. I just sent I just hit him up just recently. He has a new album that just came out. I think it's the, Ex the Unexpected, I think it's called.
Yep.
It's pretty dope. And then there was another album that just came out that or not even album, like a little 7-inch single with this producer, and it's so freaking dope. And I can't get it yet because I think he made only it's kind of cool concept. He only made maybe, I don't know, 200 copies so he could give it just to DJs to play,
Yeah.
circulate. And now it's like I want one. I want to just have one for my collection, but
Exactly.
it's
Because you
so
need that
dope.
in the
Yeah,
collection, right?
exactly. Yeah. So Artifacts is definitely we would have been top five. But I did some last minute changes. So he's number six.
Okay. So I'm making a last minute audible here with my top five. I just start thinking about more and more. So number six is Outcast, Sudden Playlistic Cadillac Music. This is the debut of Outcast. So when we talk about hip hop groups or duos, they may have the best discography. They had five
Yeah.
amazing albums. I don't love the double album personally. Some people love Aquemini, other people love Stankonia. I know this is my brother's favorite album.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine, he's like my third brother. My friend Nick Healing, he's been on the podcast. We did, I think it was like in season one, we did like a debate between Midnight Marauders and the Low End Theory. But he loves Aquemini, and I love ET Aliens. That's my favorite
Ooh,
album.
me too. Yeah.
But this album was just gave us a whole new sound. And you think of like the Source Awards, and
Oh yeah.
Big Boy standing
Big boy.
beside Andre 3000 and say, "Hey, the South has gotten something to say." And did we know how impactful those words would be? We got Goody Mob. We ended up getting
It's
Ti.
prophetic. It's prophetic.
We got
Yeah.
um we got Ludacris. Like the list is endless of what we got. This one album, and this was the tipping point to
Yep.
everything else, and how important Atlanta and the Carolinas. Like this is J. Cole. This is before him. This is
Yeah.
Ninth Wonder is
Yep.
also from the area. We got Little Brother from
Little
the
brother.
South.
Yep.
So this was the album that set it off. And Players Ball that many people know. Crumbling Herb is another one of my
Oh
favorite
yeah.
songs. Um, Ain't No Thing was the first song that I heard, and I absolutely loved it. So we had to do a shuffle. This was in the top five. This ended up at six. But now we're down to the nitty gritty. Let's
Yep.
see how things navigate in the top five. Because I
Top
think
five.
I would tell
Top
you
five.
four albums are probably the same. I just don't think we're going to land in the same spot. Give us
Yeah.
your
So my number five, you've already mentioned this one. And actually the cool thing is Fat Beats just released the 30th anniversary version. Um, Extinction
banger.
Agenda, Stress, Extinction Agenda. And the crazy thing is this version here, I'm gonna like promote it, but get it before it's gone. I think the
Yeah,
vinyl might be gone now, but this
I
one
think it is. I
has,
remember seeing that when they put it out. I think
right?
the vinyl was gone
Oh,
like instantaneously.
and then you mentioned they made this one a green tape. It's cool. So at the
I
same
didn't think I got that one on tape. I think I may have gotten at a dub and then
so
I bought it on
so I
CD. So I
so
didn't know that
for
was green. Very
so
cool.
for the 30th anniversary, I just had to get them all. So I got all three, got the tape, the CD, and the vinyl. And then here's my original one. I think it still got like freaking. Oh no, I think I replaced it. But like, yeah, this one's super scratched. I don't even know how this one still is still working, but never gonna get rid of it. But
No.
yeah, this one here, like, because I was a huge comic book fan and still am.
Yeah.
But just seeing this like artwork in the front, I was like, man, this totally attracted me to it. I was like,
Yeah.
and then just listening to the whole album. But the cool thing about this one, besides all the instrumentals on it, it has the Stress remix,
Yes.
the Extra P Large Professor remix, and then it also has the Bring It On remix, the Buck Wild one that was
Yeah.
on Substitute, the Substitute soundtrack.
Yeah.
And then there was a Y remix. It kind of sounded like the other one, but I didn't realize they had the Y. I like that was one of my favorite songs off the album is Y. And then also of course the Let's Organize, and then of course Keep It Coming, and then the original Stress of and the original Bring It On. But yeah, oh, Stray Bullet.
Stray Bullet.
That whole like just visualize. I mean, that's the one thing listening to that track, you could feel like you're the bullet
Yeah.
going through. And yeah, it's dark, but that and it's like that same sample that Buck 'em Down from Black Moon, I think.
Yeah.
It's that same I think it was Donald Byrd sample that they used. But again, yeah, this one here. And again, like Prince Poetry and Pharoah Monch MCs. Like they were the ones that, like your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. You know what I mean? So that's why this album here, I loved it when I first heard it, and was so glad I got this one when it came out because I was searching high and low, and they didn't have the official re-release. So the original ones or the bootlegs were like super expensive. I remember I was
Yeah.
gonna get one, and it was like maybe I don't know if you ever use Discogs when they go like very good plus, like it's probably
Yeah.
like scratches all over it, and it was still like $250. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I'm a bastards. But yeah, so yeah, top five. I mean, one of some of my favorite. It's one of my besides like Wu Tang and Gangstar, like Organized Confusion was like one of those groups that I loved from the
Yeah.
90s.
And you like what you like and you love what you love. And
Yeah,
yeah, like you are definitely on the vinyl side. Like I had that on CD. I still do. It's always behind me, and
yeah,
up to probably L is on the other side there. But that album is absolutely incredible. Sounds like nothing like, and I think you were, for those who are watching at YouTube, you probably can see me like I'm like waving a paintbrush because Stray Bullet is like he was
oh
painting a picture in your mind.
man,
It gives me the same vibes
man, yeah.
as New York State of Mind by Nas,
Hmm.
that you feel that you were there. You're in
Yes,
that
yes.
story and what that felt like. So
And that's what a
amazing,
lot of these
amazing
albums
choice.
that we're talking about, like during the mid 90s, like they it's funny because right now I work out. It's funny. The company that I work for. Oh, hold on. camera always like every 30 minutes it goes standby mode and I can't even
Yeah.
disable it. So I need to
No,
get me a new Canon. It's like, come on, man. Like this little thing is supposed to be streaming. I think it's made for streaming too, and it like
it times out at
times out
30
every
minutes.
30 minutes. I'm like, God.
Yeah.
So no, so what I was gonna say was my current job because I work in insurance. So um my office is out of New York. So a lot of people like when I would talk with because a lot of my clients are from New York too. So when I talk about like New York, they're like, but you're from California. How do you know a lot about New York? I'm like, it's basically because hip hop.
Yeah. Hip
Like
hop was a great teacher in the
so
90s.
so I knew like all the five boroughs. I knew a lot of like the different cities and towns and a lot of just references. And they're like, oh, how do you know like Mayor Ed Koch? I'm like, well, you're from California. You should know Willie Brown or something.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so just like you said, it just paints that picture like with Nas's album, like
Yeah.
J. Rue's album, like that whole time period. Like I knew what I had a sense of what the New York was like around that
Yeah.
time, and it paints this picture. And the cool thing is, it's besides like film and movies and documentaries, but like with music, it encapsulates the time period. So like 20 to 30 years, like now we're talking 30 years from now, you could go back and you could think of, oh man, this is how individuals lived in the 90s in New
Yeah.
York, in Queens, in Brooklyn. This is what the projects were. So yeah, so now we're on number four.
We're at no, you're going to give us number four, but before you do, I'm going to give you my five. So
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry. My
this
bad.
was the last minute shuffle, and I'm a huge fan. I reached out to him 2 years ago. He actually couldn't believe I think it was when I was telling you about Cool Rab. I
Yep.
probably sent him, Pharaoh Monch, this particular MC, and I'll break the silence. It is
Mm,
OC. Word Life. This is in my top five. He did do a special release of the vinyl of some of his two best projects, that and
Jules.
and
Jewel.
Jewels. And I had to buy both. Like I don't have a very big vinyl collection. It actually on my wall,
Yeah,
it's like they're like paintings to me when I have
they are.
the vinyl out of them and they're on display. Like I look at our wall and we have black on both sides. We have the entire um Tribe Called Quest collection. We got 36 chambers. We
Mm,
got Only Built for Cuban Links. We got Fuji's The Score, Mecca and the
yes.
Soul Brother. Like we got Illmatic. We got
It's
Ready
hip
to Die.
hop.
We got hip hop. We got
It's
Matt
hip
Dillon up
hop.
there. We got
Love
the
it.
best of that area. But this particular album, he was so cool. He came on the podcast. He was probably the first famous person that came on. Took it on his couch, and it was an amazing conversation. He told me things that I had never heard. Like I was like, OMG. Like
Wow.
to share with the people that maybe you have to go back, and I'll pull it out one of these days. Maybe as you give your number four, I'll tell people what episode it was when OC was on. But he shared that before Big L died, him and Big L were working on an album together.
Mm,
And I was going, could you imagine the magnitude of that project if
yeah.
it ever saw the light of day? But you can get upset. But I think if you just take in this particular album and just the things that were on it, we had Born to Live remix,
Mm.
obviously, Word Life, Creative Control. I love the Ozone.
Oh yeah.
Constables with the KRS one.
Organized.
Some people, police be clocking me.
Yep.
It's such a mature song for like someone's debut album. It's Let It Slide, and he talks about getting into beef, being in clubs, fighting over a girl, and it's like, not gonna do it. I'm grown, and he's only like 20 something at this point when he created this debut album. But like to say, hey, that I'm not gonna pull out a gun or I'm not gonna do this. I could, but that's not how I handle things. But there was going back to, we already mentioned Drink Champs already, but Drink Champs had MC Search, and MC Search was working with OC at the
I
time
remember
of
that.
this
I listened to
album.
that one.
And there's one specific point that he and OC are talking about the album, and he keeps creating songs. And MC says, "This ain't it. This ain't it. Are you seeing what's happening in the '90s? You have Tribe Called Quest, you have Wu Tang, you have Um, Flavor in Your Ear was the song, the joint. It didn't
Yep.
make the 20, maybe the
Yeah.
best song of the entire year. Um, so like the bar is so high. You got to come through with a track. And I can't remember the exact song that he said, um, that he came up with. And it was like OC was so mad, he almost quit making this album. And he actually was talking to MC Shirts on the top of a top of an apartment building, and he got so mad at MC Search he almost wanted to throw him off the top of the building and say, "Screw this guy, I'm going to do my album." But he finally made a song, and I can't remember what OC had shared with me, but it was like it, and everything after that was like absolute magic. So, as in many cases with these amazing artists, the song that defines the album comes at the end. The
Yeah.
album was literally done. I don't know if we thought we had the track, but Time's Up is one of the last
Yep.
songs that comes, and he's just like, I
I
just
think it
need to
is.
say, I need to get this out. And people, when they heard him spit this, were going, what is that? That is an all-time
Yeah.
classic. Like you could feel his point of view of what was happening in the industry and what, there was commercial rap that was kind of trying to take over this mainstream New York rising of underground hip hop. And like we had like the bridge is over, like that was an era, but like this song defined that we ain't having it.
Yeah.
That is not what New York rap is going to be about, nor is it ever going to be. This is an absolute classic, surely based on that album. But the continuity of the entire album and all 14 tracks from intro to outro
Yeah.
is
It's a great album.
easily, it's hard to navigate and move the other ones that are ahead of it, but this is a top of the class album in 94. So now we're in the nitty gritty. I will tell you right now, we as New York hip hop fans, you live in California, I live in Toronto, Canada. We have the same four. I'm going to bet right now. We have the same
Yeah,
four.
I think so too.
I just don't know what order it's going to be in. So give us your number four.
Um, Sun rises in the east.
Okay. Okay.
So J. Rue's debut. I think that Come Clean, of course, that's just one of those tracks with the what is it, the Onyx sample for the chorus and just straight
Yep.
lyrics.
Heads
And then
up, we're
just those
dropping some shit.
drums, those drums. Um, Ain't the Devil Happy, you know, the bitches. You can't stop the Prophet and even the
Yeah.
remix versions of it.
P Rock
Um,
flipped that.
the original, that sample on the
Mm-hmm.
original, I
The
mean,
piano.
yeah, the piano. I mean, again, this mental stamina. I mean, even Afu Ra
That's the
was on
one with
this one.
Afu.
Yeah, Afu Ra. So yeah, another just classic, again, DJ Premier. Because prior to that he was on what was it on man Daily Operation. It was
Yeah.
the one with the three beats.
You're the man.
You're the man. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
became a thing that they started to do songs, three
With
MCs,
the three
three
MCs.
different beats.
Yeah,
And it was a gangstar thing.
it was so cool. It was
Yeah.
dope. I mean, because what was
Yeah.
it? Nutcracker, Guru, and Jeru.
Yeah.
I mean, I could like yeah, Jeru. It would have been. I had this at three, but then he moved down just one. But yeah, he's number three.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Jeru.
Yes. That is an amazing number four. So number four, and again, I am very much into New York rap. I love Gangstar, so I will tell you Gangstar has major influence on my list. So coming in at number four is Ready to Die. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're disrespecting the best MC of all time in some people's eyes, Biggie.
I know.
This album is absolutely amazing. Maybe outside some of the songs I'm about to mention, and you know, Time's Up and Most Beautiful Thing in the World, Unbelievable is in my top 10 songs for that year. And that's the song that got me hooked.
Yeah.
between that and Flavor in the Year, I remember recording this on a Saturday in the middle of summer before the album released. I recorded this song for 45 minutes straight, repeatedly, just kept going back and recording it so I could play this song for 45 minutes on a tape. In those days, there were no CDs as of yet, or I
Yep.
didn't have one, probably was the case. But I wanted to hear that song and Flavor in Year on the other side. I listened to two songs for an hour and a half.
Nice.
So I was totally obsessed with Biggie. Fast forward to the following January, it was one of the rare shows that Biggie ever did, and he came to Toronto. It was freezing cold. It was we go Fahrenheit because you're American. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes people don't always understand. So this is below zero.
Yeah.
It was freezing beyond
Damn.
plus the wind chill that day. Small little club downstairs on Yonge Street, which is not even that particular building is totally knocked down now. But he did like 7 songs, 2 groups that were opening acts perform. The promoter didn't realize they were rival groups. So the first group goes on, the second group goes on, and then the one guy does a freestyle, and this is the first group. The other group rushes the stage. There's a fight. Onto people like go running onto the street with no jacket.
Damn.
10 minutes later, we're allowed to go back inside. We thought the show was over. We're not getting Biggie. I have no jacket. Everything is ruined. They let us back inside. They try to put stuff together. The turntable's missing. They find the turntable 10 minutes later. The needle is missing. So finally we get another needle. So this is
Oh
all
man.
the drama that's happening. Finally we get things together. Biggie comes out. I'll send you the video on Instagram. But there's a couple people that do like classic Toronto music moments, and this is one of them because it's
Nice.
Big. The one time he came, it's a club that holds 200 people, maybe 150, and we're all crammed in there like sardines. It's a stage that was probably 2 feet high. At one point, he jumps into the crowd to do Unbelievable, and like
Damn.
people are just all over him, and the place is just rocking. So
Damn.
you think about this album, Unbelievable is an amazing song. Most people love Juicy. Juicy is the song now. Hey, think
Yeah.
what you want. There's rumors that Biggie stole this song from another MC that looked very similar to him.
Oh yeah,
His
I heard
flow
about
and
that. Yeah. I saw that video.
and the beat and the whole 9 yards. Would you be surprised if Puff did this? But that song ultimately became Biggie's and transcended Biggie's career for again.
Yeah.
Unlike very much like Pete Rock and CL Smooth, it's only a 2 album run, but 2 amazing albums is what we got. We had The Warning, we had Machine Gun Funk, and again, The Warning, the way he does the two voices and
Oh
like
yeah.
it is an absolute amazing piece. Give well, actually, he does the two voices
Give me
in
the
"Give Me
loot.
the Loot," which is probably my second favorite song on here. A very dark song, and I know we kind of talked about a couple dark
It's one of my
albums with
favorite too.
is Suicidal Thoughts. It's
Yeah.
crazy to think about how much I enjoyed the song, but how scary the song is that he actually put this on a record. And I think, but it ties back into the theme
Yep.
of
Ready
Ready
to
to
die.
Die. And it was very ironic that it was end up being the
It is crazy.
last
It is
song on the album.
crazy. Crazy how these things
So I
happen like
wanted to
that.
fast forward, and really we're gonna get to the top 3 now, but this was such an impactful album. This is some people's favorite album ever. This is their favorite MC ever, and this is my number 4. Give us your number 3, and let's see where we're at here, because I know we're still down to the same 3 albums.
Yeah. Well,
Where do we land here?
the funny thing is, that story you were telling, you know, what would have been cool is that those two rival gangs or like, or gangs, those two rival groups were going at it. Would have been cool is if Party and Bullshit like happened right there.
Mm-hmm.
He started doing like,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
chill,
Yeah.
B. And then the song comes on, Party and Bullshit. But
Ready
number
to die.
three, number three. This was gonna be number four, but then it got moved up from J. Rue. Again, you know, it's just one of those albums that you could listen definitely from front to back, and it definitely put um, it changed the game in a sense where, you know, again, Puffy, you know, whatever's happening with him now, but for him to just put this whole album together from having like chart topping hits to, like Give Me the Loot or Suicidal Thoughts, these tracks even like after is One More Chance, even that one, it wasn't on this album but the remix. So there's so many, like a mix of commercial songs and then songs that were pretty hardcore. Again, Give Me the Loot's like one of my favorite. Machine Gun Funk's one of my favorite. Everyday Struggle,
Yeah.
I just love the beat on that, and then just
And I
his
could resonate
lyrics.
with that one at
Yeah,
that time of year,
ex
trying to find money
exactly,
to buy albums, and
exactly.
it was a
So
struggle, but
so
you
it's
could
just
really
relate.
feel that one.
And then yeah, again, like even like suicidal thoughts and these topics that would be taboo, like he was able to just, like, again, put you into his point of view and perspective. And then like just the whole Give Me the Loot, the whole, the what, I almost forgot about the what. I mean, with
Mm.
Method Man, I
I
mean,
didn't
that
mention it, but
that
yeah,
feature, man, one of the best features. I mean, it seems like Method Man was everywhere in '94. He was
yeah,
on Spice One's album. He was on here. But yes, I would say Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die is my number three.
great choice. It's one off mine. And I will tell you that a unique story about um, the what. So RZA at that point, 36 Chambers was out. We were on the verge of now getting the first solo project. RZA
Yep.
was adamant that we kept everything in house, and it was
Yep.
only Wu-Tang people you could work with.
Yep.
Well, Method
Somehow
Man
he,
slipped out the back door, and it's like, hey, he was in Brooklyn. He
yeah.
was he was in the same studio that Biggie was at, and Biggie says, "Hey, you want to jump on? They have some blunts and some liquor." And the what was created. It was well after that RZA heard about it, was not happy about it, but the song was so good they just had to keep it moving on that album. So yeah, pretty amazing. So I'll give you my number three. You've already mentioned it, but this one has significant meaning. So this is J. Rue the Damager
Mm,
debut album, Sunrise. And crazy thing about this, and then there's been um, it mentioned before it happened in 2001 when the World Trade Center falls.
mm.
The picture of this is the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers on fire,
It's crazy.
and
Isn't it
this is a
crazy?
'94 album,
It's crazy.
and it actually happened in 2001. So
Yeah.
that was the day that Jay-Z essentially he released the blueprint, and the towers went down that day. I remember
Yeah.
that day very vividly. So when we talk about Sunrise in the East, this is one of the best. This was like literally this album took DJ Premier into a whole new stratosphere of production,
Yeah.
because the production was so creative, from Brooklyn Took It to D
Mm,
Original.
yeah.
The Bitches was the controversial song because it's like, hey, why are you making a song called a bit? And then he's within his
But
lyrics,
when you listen to
you
it,
had to listen to the song.
yep,
And when you listen to it, you understand his perspective
what he meant.
and what he was trying to stand up for. I remember there was an article in the Source or Rap Pages at the time, and him having to defend the song. And then when people actually listened to it,
Yep.
he earned more respect of what it was of. We didn't get much after this album in J. Ro in many people's eyes. The second album is good, and then he's still out there making other music. But I think when you see J, and I've seen J. Ro in concert 5 times, he comes back to this one like there's no one's business. So
Oh yeah.
Can't
Have
Stop
to.
the Profit again.
Mm,
DJ Premier did the entire album, but then we got Pete Rock that did the
remix.
remix to Can't Up, and that might be the best beat of the entire year. Ain't the Devil Happy, My
Mm,
Mind Spray,
yep.
Jungle Music, because it
Oh
sounds like
yeah.
it's in the jungle,
Yep.
is
Yep. Yep.
incredible. Static was the song that blew my mind because it was static. And I remember it's on tape. I have it up there. I put this in. I bought it at Scarborough Town Center in Toronto, in Scarborough. That's my home borough of Scarborough. It's like if it was New York, that would be Brooklyn.
Nice.
And I have it in tape. And I remember I get to static, and it's like, what's wrong with the tape? And then I realized that the static is part of the beat. And it's like, this
Right.
is absolutely incredible.
It's like
And the more that
intentional.
I
Yep.
listen to it, the more that I love it. Um, and the special story about this particular album. So I saw him in a little tiny show. There was probably 30 people there. It was in like a little bar, and this is December of 2005. I'm crazy with dates. I remember things because hip hop and sneakers connect me to certain times. So at this time, I am with my brother and this young lady who ends up becoming my wife, Catherine. Shout out to my wife, Catherine. And we getting connected or became friends at work because she loved hip hop. I remember we're having a conversation about hip hop, and she says we're talking about Nas and Jay Z as favorite MCs. She says Mos Def. I'm saying, hold on, tell me what you know about Mos Def. She tells me all of this, and it's like, hey, let's
That's
start
awesome.
talking about music. She shows me her bag, and she has all of this music. So we start trading albums, and ones that I didn't have, she had, and I had a bigger collection. So our collections are merged now, and now it's digital, but we still collect a lot of the things that meant a lot to us then, because again, they're like pieces of art, not only the music but actually the catalog. So we're end up at a show. It's the J. Rue show. It's right before New Year's. It's December 30th,
It's oh 05,
and
you said.
of '05. And we didn't start dating till '06. But remember, the show happens, does about 15 songs, the first two albums, it's amazing. And then he says, hey, a bunch of people are going to go hang out. I got to go to work and open the store the next day, so I'm not going. It ended up being all girls that went with J. Rue. And sure enough, he says, like, hey, should I go? And I talked to her brother. Her brother says, yeah, she should go. And I said, of course she should go. And then it dawned on me, it's just like, why did I send this girl to go hang out with another dude? And that was the time that it dawned on me that I actually liked her. And
Yeah, you were
fast
feeling that.
forward from
Yep.
2005 to almost 2025, 20 years later, we have a beautiful daughter, Winnie. We've been married since 2020 or 2013. So we're
11
coming up
years.
on 12
Damn.
years
Damn.
in June. But J.Rew's got a
Congrats.
special spot. Again, that's why we have a story for so many of these albums. So
It's awesome. I
we
love it.
down to the top two, and it's amazing. And it just dawned on me. I think we have the same top two. So give us your two.
Well, it's hard to earn.
Yeah.
Hard to earn. I mean, it's just one of those albums that you could listen front to back. Mass Appeal, you know, is probably one of my favorite off here. And then
Yeah.
Go to the Streets. Um, you know, Blowing Up the Spot I loved. Tons of Guns, The Planet, Speak a Cloud. I mean, just pretty much the whole album. And then,
Yeah.
just the production, Guru's just so smooth in here. And again, it's a totally different sound from Daily Operation. But I would say Hard to Earn is my number two, and I still pretty much listen to this day, like
Yeah.
always on rotation. And it's just, when I like especially like my nephews when they first started listening to hip hop, I was like, oh yeah, you got to get this
You
one.
gotta start. You gotta start here.
It's like this is like Bibles for some of these albums here. So
Got
it's
him.
what I mean. So I was like, this is what you got to listen to. This epitome of New York boom bap '94. Another album that you could listen to and it could bring you back to that era. And this is
Yeah.
just one of my favorite albums.
So as you see, I'm holding up the CD version, the
Yep.
same album. Again, album that sounded so different than Step to the Arena. Sounded
Yep.
no or Mr. Nice Guy did not sound like that one. Did not sound like Hard to Earn, which was gritty. This was
Yeah.
gritty, but the production was elevated.
Yeah.
So from
Equipment.
mass appeal and um I think of Mass Appeal and Codes of the Street. Those are the two songs that truly stand out. And like in every mixtape I probably make on a regular, you got the singles there that I make, they end up on one of those twos, if not both of them end up on it. But from a long way to go, um, Brainstorm is a favorite song. I absolutely love The Planet. Um, uh, Now You're Mine is a very unique
Oh
song
yes, I
that's on
forgot
there
about that one.
because
Forgot
that
about
was
that one.
actually a diss song to DJ Premier because apparently they got into a fight
I remember hearing about that
during
one.
the creation of the album.
Yep.
And when Guru told Primo that's like, hey, you inspired these because we were beefing, but we're good
They're
now.
like,
And
yeah,
it's
I
like,
remember
what?
that.
I can't put a diss song. You can't diss the producer on his own album. But it's just like the lyrics are so hard, we have to keep it on the album. So an absolutely, amazing project. And then I think the most slept on song of the whole album is mostly the voice because that is Guru's calling card.
Yep.
He has, I put it in a chat yesterday, top five voices with Rakim, Sadat, um, I think I said Grand Puba, and I had one other one, but Guru is definitely there
Yeah.
as a
He's def
unique voice. And
yeah.
he takes his voice to a whole nother level, and it's amazing. He creates a song about his voice.
Oh
The
yeah.
number two on my list is Hard to Earn. This wasn't the first Gangstar album I had. First one I heard was um the first one I heard was Daily Operation, and then I went back, and
Yep.
then that
Same
really set
thing.
up the anticipation that when I got this, I remember I was in my first year of university. My friend Brett Gaskell, we both got the album. We were listening into his room. It's like Guru and Premiere are absolutely incredible. Fast forward, end up seeing them in concert.
Damn.
The only time they did a ton of records from this particular, again, because Code of the Street and Mass Appeal being on it. But I generally love this album. This is like a top 10 album for me
Yeah.
all time. And you don't have to love it, but it's my list. And not only is it number two in '94, one of my favorite years, but it's like top 10 for me
Yeah.
all time.
Agreed. Agreed. That's
But we're at the top of the spot. We've been going for almost two
wow.
hours, but it's been such great conversation. We know
I'm
we have
sh
the same
I
album.
wonder what it is.
Three, two, one. It
Fush
is.
Fushnikins? No.
No, it's not Fushnikins. Didn't come out this year. It is
Yeah.
Illmatic. So talk us a little bit about Illmatic. It's on my wall. I have the
I
tape. I have
mean,
the CD. I never
I mean,
met him.
I mean,
That is a lifelong dream of me. And again,
I would
you
love
never
to
want
meet
to
him
meet your
too.
heroes, but I met a couple of my heroes and they were pretty amazing. It was very interesting to talk to Nas, but this
Yeah.
is like the gold standard. It's sorry, the platinum standard from every hip hop album
Yeah.
ever made. It's my favorite album. I think it's the best album and my favorite in one fail swoop.
I mean, what is it like 10 songs? I mean,
Nine
it's like
songs and interlude essentially.
yeah. Oh yeah, because the Genesis.
Yeah.
I would say like this is the epitome of less is more in a sense where you didn't need 12 songs or 15 songs. It's like what LES, Large Professor, Q-Tip, Pete Rock,
DJ Premier.
DJ Premier. I mean, I said yeah, Large Professor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, at first at the beginning, like it was all about like New York State of Mind, The World Is Yours. But over the years, and of course One Love, but over the years, I think and see it keeps adding. It ain't hard to tell. Life's a Bitch. I mean, the whole album. But I remember like I started liking like One Time for Your Mind, like Represent, like the ones that no one would play. I started getting into those more. I was like, oh man, like these are like every single song on this album is
Yeah.
worth it. From the lyrics, the way he weaves a story, like I said, like a paintbrush. He just it's a tapestry, like you're seeing where he's going with it, then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, here's like this is New York. This is what New York is in
Mm-hmm.
Queens in 1994 or 93. And just I mean, the album cover. I mean, just everything about this album, it's again, it's probably my top 10 of all time as well.
Yeah.
Probably in the top five, maybe. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely it deserves number one spot for
For this
1994.
year. For
Yeah,
this
for
year.
1994. And I just remembered, especially on the West Coast, it didn't blow up. Um, So it wasn't one of those things, and it didn't, because I think one thing too.
It's
Sorry.
okay. Your camera just
One,
went to sleep.
I know,
You're
right?
you're
30
back.
minutes
You're
again.
back.
Okay. So it's like one of the things that I remember was that it didn't get that street buzz that everyone knew Nas in New York, because he was that, oh, he was the guy on the and on the main source, live at the barbecue, or
Yeah.
he's coming up. They're always, who's this Nas guy coming? So when it finally came out, like I remember, I think my brother got the tape, and when I first heard it, I'm like, okay, this is good. But then afterwards, after more listening, I was like, okay, a couple more listens, like this is freaking amazing. And I remember
Mhm.
like being in the West Coast, that it wasn't like this year, like people were bumping like Outcast and Murder Was the Case, Ice Cube, whichever the Warren G was one of the albums. But at the time, everyone was all West Coast. So for me to have to listen to the Nas album when it first came out, it was amazing. And it definitely opened up that window, that if you weren't into hip hop, or you weren't into like East Coast, like I always tell people, go back to this album if you want to get a glimpse of what hip hop is, not just what was represented the last 30 years. And this is exactly what is the like one of the best representation of the true art form is.
And that's the unique thing about this album, because it is truly a piece of art.
Yep.
This is Nas on the cover at 7 years old. Um, and you just have a vivid picture of what Queensbridge looked like
Yeah.
through his eyes. From New York State of Mind, which is arguably one of the most well-crafted songs we've ever heard. Memory Lane, which it grew on me over time,
Yes.
really
Yes.
talking about, someone from his crew that is no more. And then Ain't Hard to Tell and Halftime. Halftime was the first song that you heard.
Yep.
Ain't Hard to
The
Tell was the one.
Was that
World is
Zebrahead
your What's
soundtrack?
that? I
Zebrahead
think so,
soundtrack?
yeah. I think so, yeah. And before that, again, you mentioned he did a song with MC Serge, that kind of got him going.
Back
And
to the
then
Grill. Yeah.
Back to the Grill was the track, but it was really when he
The main.
spazzed out,
Yeah.
on the main source track, um, and gave us, like, when we start talking about snuffing Jesus, um, that
Yeah.
that
Those lyrics.
that he said it in retrospect, like, hey, live at the BBQ, I was really trying to go for some shock value, and it
It
clearly
worked.
worked.
Killer than
And
an
I
AIDS
think
patient.
we got lyricism, but then the storytelling, and I think when we talk about MCs in general, we can talk about Rakim, and Rakim rhymed in a way that we never really heard,
Yep.
and it challenged everyone.
Yep.
Cool G Rap, KRS-One,
Big Daddy Kane.
Big Daddy Kane, Ice Cube. It all challenged everyone
Yep.
to elevate their pen game. People heard Nas again on Back to the Grill and Live at the BB and say, "Oh, this kid Nas, and he's a teenager at this point." When
Right.
he put this out, and the way that he was able to string words that you see them in writing that don't rhyme, but he says them in a way that they do rhyme. I
Yeah.
think really I would say him and Big are the two best at it, of
Yep.
words that don't rhyme, that he makes them rhyme.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you get this masterpiece. You already mentioned the producers: Large Professor, LES, Pete Rock, Q-Tip, Primo. It's the dream team of
Right.
production. It's only 9 songs, including an interlude 10, but it's a masterclass of, you see the picture, the four, or the 5 producers and Nas together. You see them. There's pictures, so many pictures if you Google it.
Yeah.
Illmatic sessions, but Illmatic is the gold standard. The song that probably has grown on me the most, and one of the songs I look forward to any time that I need to get amped up or excited, is Represent. Like this,
Yeah.
like that. I have a song that literally makes the hair on the back of my, and it's like a gut check. There's only certain songs that can do it. Made You Look, Annie Up, Simon Says,
Mm.
um, and represent are just some of
Oh,
the
those are
songs that
hard. Yep.
can make it just like it's on, it's game time, and that is one of the songs that you use. A lot of songs you can. This album only has one feature. I don't know if we talked enough about
AZ.
Life's a Bitch, and AZ is on it. This is the debut song, so this again,
Yep.
this is bringing someone that's part of your crew
Yep.
onto the. No one knew who AZ was, but then
No.
the debate is that Nas actually has the second best verse on it because AZ spazzes on
No, that
his
was
verse,
that.
and it maybe in many people's eyes, it's the best lyrical song outside New York State of Mind. But this is the best album in my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion and how it's reflected. April 19th. Again, we're coming up on this again. 30 years. I remember I celebrated. I took pictures. I'm just like infatuated with everything Nas. But
Yeah.
this is the number one album for me. Many people, it's all time. If it's on a list and it's not in the top three, I literally throw the list in the garbage.
Right.
But a special album, and again, a special year that we've just now talked about for literally the last 2 hours,
There's
and
so many more albums too.
so many more albums that didn't
Yeah.
even make the
No.
top 20 between the two
No.
of us. And if you could easily, go to 30 and 40 albums and you look at it, I think there is a list out there. I want to say it's um hip hop new age or something like that. They do like 100 albums out of
Yeah.
this one year.
Yeah.
So there's that much quality that happened in one year. And we've only really talked about 20, with a couple honorable mention. But David,
Yeah.
just in closing, I really appreciate your time, sharing your knowledge and your insights. We covered it
Likewise.
all.
Likewise.
West, East, South. We didn't get a lot out of Detroit. We definitely touched on Chicago. So Midwest did
Yeah.
get some love. In another year, it would feel totally different in 95 and 96, but I
I
really
think
appreciate your time.
that's the next video. I
That's
love
the next one.
95. I
Yeah.
love
Well,
95.
I love 95 for different reasons. Like
Yeah.
Wu-Tang essentially took over with their
Oh my
with the
God.
solo projects. Like Meth was the
Yeah.
was the was the entree, and we got the main course with
Oh my God.
ODB,
Yep.
Jizza, and obviously Raekwon, only built for Cuban links, the purple tape. But really fun. Thank you for showing
Thank
us
you.
your wax,
Appreciate
the
it,
CDs
man.
that you have. I
Thank
think
you. Thank
I
you.
learned something. There's a green tape that was out there. We never talked about the green tape.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know if it was original green tape because this is off the 30 year. So I don't
yeah,
know if it was they just wanted to do it because everyone had a color.
yeah,
They're like, okay, fine, we'll just do a green tape.
green tape. But yeah, so many great albums. But
Yeah.
and I think for the listeners, and if you've gotten to this point, really appreciate it. But
Thank you.
hopefully you learn something. Again, both David and I lived through these times. He's a little bit younger, like you would be the age of my youngest brother. Um, and he was like in my room. I only learned that this was the case when I got married. So
Yeah.
my best friend, which was my brother's best friend at the time, they not grew apart. Him and I, Nick, grew closer because we shared so many common interests. But
Yeah.
I learned when he did the best man speech that, at one point of his life, I was 6 years older than him, and we played basketball. I was like Shaq. I blocked everything that guy threw at the rim. And then there was this admiration phase, and it was like 92, 93, because he was a little bit, I was in university. I was a varsity athlete. He was just going into high school, and him and my brother spent so much time when I was in university listening to the music that I didn't bring to school.
Awesome.
So there was a whole listening party these guys had for years in my room. They
Yep.
didn't hang out in the living room. They didn't hang out in my brother's room.
Nope.
They hung it in my room, looked at
Yep.
my shoes, and listened to my music and just talked about life. And I had no idea until I heard the best man speech on the best day of my life outside when my child was born. Is
That's
when I
awesome.
married my wife, Catherine. And to hear that this was the impact that I had on a person that didn't live in my house, that the music that was happening at this time was so impactful to them, and how it has transcended their friends and people that followed in behind them. 94 is such a special year, and many people can make the argument
Agreed.
because of
Yep.
the depth, it's the best year. Some say 95, others say, well, we're talking top tier,
Yeah.
36 Chambers and Midnight Marauders are the two of the five best albums that came out in the 90s. So 93 is the answer. We got Souls
Yeah.
of Mischief, which arguably
Yep.
has a one of the best cohesive albums and one of the most timeless songs in 93 till infinity, because we're still playing it, because essentially when you say infinity, it is relevant every single year.
Exactly. Exactly.
So again, I really appreciate your time. How
Appreciate
do
you too,
people
man.
find you on Instagram if
It's
they want to listen to more of the
just
music that you
yeah,
spit?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's wax underscore curator. It's WAX underscore CURATOR.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
So
You're
yeah,
welcome.
Wax Creator, you can find him on Instagram, spins the essentially what we just talked about, the best of the best of the 90s. So for David and Lionel, appreciate the 2 hour
Thanks, Lionel.
journey on what has been an amazing conversation about some of the best music you've heard. So for Sneaks Rhymes in Life, we're out. Check out the next
Peace.
episode. This will be available before we know it. Bye for now.